On this little owl, I'm going to show you something important when you're choosing the colors, the different separate dimensional parts. So on this cute little owl, do you see how I reverse the colors? The body is red here, it's plaid here. Well, what I ran into is I did the head feathers the same color as the eyes, and they became looking like horns. So I didn't like that. See how it looks separate here? Like that's part of the head, not the eyes. So I'm going to show you in this video how I'm going to swap out this little part. Now the paper's all been taken off, so how am I going to do that? Pretty easy to do. Now we're going to remake the head feathers in the plaid color. So I've layered the paper pattern on top of 2 pieces of fabric that are right side together, thin polyester bonded batting. Sew on the outside solid line. Now I set the stitch length just a little bit shorter, and I back stitch where the stitching begins and ends. Then I cut on the outside dash line. Then what's really important is grading. Now if you don't know what that means, on a point like this, I'm going to go across, kind of cut that tip off. That will help not having bulk when I turn it right side out. Then when it's an inside V like that, I can cut not through it, but to it. But just release that seam allowance by cutting to the stitches. That's really important on this big V. See how deep that is? I'm going to clip not through it, but to it. So I'm going to grade all the way around, remove the paper, turn it right side out, and then I'm going to work with the shapes so that they're sharp and neat. Now we'll show you how to put it into the quilt. Now I've turned it right side out and pressed it, and by grading those V's, it turned beautifully. Now look how much better that's going to look when I replace that. It'll be separate from the eyes. Okay, now I'm going to show you a trick on how to unpick. Especially if the paper were still in here and I needed a second chance at sewing a certain seam, you want to use this method because it stresses the paper very little. But I'm going to need to take the eyes off and then unpick just a section of that seam right here so I can slide in the new head feathers. So what I do is I take a rotary cutter and I lift the component up just enough to expose the stitching, and I just pop that stitching with the blade. This is actually how they unpick upholstery when they use really heavy thread and it's hard to unpick. They use a blade. So we're going to unpick so that we can replace the head feathers. Super easy to unpick. Now I've exposed the head feathers. I want to unpick just this much. So I'm going to pull the seam to where the stitches are showing, and I'm just going to pop. Be really careful to not cut the fabric. Just pop the stitches, and I just want to pop it enough to remove the head feathers. Remember, I set the stitch length a little shorter. This is also would make it harder to unpick a traditional way. And as I hit some of these stitches, I'm pulling the thing apart, and that will expose the next stitches. Now I can remove that, and I'm going to slide in my new one. And because it was pressed so well, I've got a seam line pressed, so it's going to be really easy to restitch that. But I'm going to slide that so that all the raw edges are inside that seam, and now I'm ready to restitch. Now I'd like to show you the second way of doing the little beak. Of course, you can do what's in the pattern just with 2 layers of fabric right side together, thin polyester bonded batting, the paper pattern on top, sew on the solid line. Remember to back stitch at the beginning and the end. Really helps when you're pulling the paper out. And then you're going to cut it, and in here again I graded the corner. If you can see that, I just tipped it right there. And then take the paper out, turn it right side out, and that is what's in the pattern. But let me show you a second method. You can do just a prairie point. For those of you that don't know prairie point, you just take a square, fold it diagonal, and then fold it again, and you get this sharp little point. It's open here, but that doesn't matter. And then I would slide it in when I'm putting this together instead of my dimensional part that I made. And you get a sharp, I don't know if you can see in this, you see how it's not quite as sharp as this. So it's an easy way to do a prairie point if you would like that method. Now I've got one eyeball placed. We've got our new head feathers. They look great. And you see that little sparkle, that little white dot. I'm going to show you how to do that. That's a little French knot. Many of you may know how to do it. It's pretty simple. So I'm just going to review here. I've got my felt layers, and then I've got 3 strands of embroidery floss in white. I've tied a knot on the end, and I'm going to come up from the back where I want to place that sparkle. Then what I'm going to do is take it and loop 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Pull it through, and I want to work with it till the knot is right next to the fabric. Put my thumb on that and pull it so that the loop disappears, and I've just got a little knot right next to the fabric. Then I'm going to put my needle back through that. There's my little sparkle, and then I'm going to tie a knot on the back. Let me show you a knot on the back. Super easy. Do the same thing. 3, 1, 2, 3 loops. Pull the loops down to the fabric, put your thumb on it, and pull. And the knot is right. It's not looping out somewhere. It's right next to the fabric. There's my little sparkle. I've placed one eye. He kind of looks cute, little slanted with the eyelid. And then I'm going to place the other eye, and they're overlapped. That's to cover the top part of the bee and the head feathers. Look how much better those head feathers look in a contrasting fabric. Now I'll sew them on one at a time. I've got a single thread on my needle, and I'm going to come up from the bottom. And the most important thing on this is just to lift it a little bit and sew it inside the edge. You don't want the stitches right on the very tip of the shape because it will show, and you want to keep that dimension and not pull it down tight. You just want to attach it up underneath, and that will look so cute. Look how changing and giving contrast to the head feathers changed the look of this little owl. He doesn't look like he's got horns anymore. He just looks so much better. So I hope this helped you understand how you can change out these parts. Really easy if you decide you get it done and there's something you don't like. Maybe it's the tail you want to change. You can do that and just have fun. Thanks for watching.